The Miracles of Life Film Group brings you another sneak peek into Life's Choices, the movie. This time with Radio 1 on-air personality and Fox 50 talk show host, Brian Dawson. Now let's talk about that, because we need to pump the brakes. Young people, what you just heard was a man worked for free, so the other man thought.
Right.
That was gold for you. So you were actually digging in his mind.
Right.
And while you were digging in that mind, instead of spending your recoupment, you nested it away.
Right.
And then you went back and you said, you know what, I can do this. But you had to take a money and you had to take a risk. Mm-hmm. Where did you get the confidence to take that financial risk?
Well, I had it all put together from studying under him for free and making him be obligated to answer all the questions that I had. The blueprint was there. So I figured out how to do the complete event without money, even though it took some upfront investment and entrepreneurship to be able to do the event, which I'll credit that to my dad. You know, he had a couple of hair salons and karate shops here. So I feel like he kind of gave me that entrepreneur spirit anyways. But I created the whole event from watching what he did. And he gave it to me. He didn't know he was giving it to me. And I took his event and made it 3 or 4 times bigger. So, you know, I talk to young people about that all the time. And the only other story I can equate to that is when I had my first interview with 50 Cent. And he was telling me how he patented, he said when he got his first $100,000, he patented G-Unit. He said, people think I went and bought a Benz, a Bentley, or you know, a Phantom. He said, but I went and patented G-Unit. And that company became worth millions and millions of dollars. And it just stuck with me when he said that.
And it started with a $100,000 seed, and now he's worth over $100 million.
Right. But see, the media don't put that part out. They only just make it look like his success been, you know, accidental.
So everything that I've heard you say that helped shape and mold Brian Dawson's success starts with good family values, listening at home, honoring your mother and your father, and then sweat equity. Right. It doesn't sound as if, even though your parents were entrepreneurs in their own right, that they were handing you things. It seems as if you out there, you know, humping, grinding, making it happen. How did you keep the haters, the hangers-on, from holding you down and wanting to get a piece of what you have? How did you stay focused?
Great question. I think one of the things I think you got to add to that is recognizing the people around you. I think we all have support systems, but we don't recognize it. It may not be the mother or father. It might be a guardian or uncle or cousin. But I've been able to recognize the people around me and allow them to help me. So I think that was the big thing. And I also saw people who were older than me that was doing it on a level that they could do it for that time. And I respected them. So as I came up and maybe got bigger than they were, I respected them and still gave them the credit for the reason that I was able to step up past them. So I think that's one thing that a lot of young people don't really pay attention to. Like,
well, I'll tell you, you're a young man and you're talking about advice giving to young people. Let me rewind a little bit. About 1.5 years, I was in your office, and I had talked to you about how to get this project off the ground. What did I need to do? And you lent your ear. You gave me some advice. And what I got in a nutshell was the Chase Media board and that hierarchy that you had on the wall.
The path we walk is the first step. You know, I think that's one thing that people don't really understand. It's not that we got some supernatural talent. It's just that we got enough ability in our mind to take that step and start to make our dreams and goals come together. You know, a lot of people got great ideas similar to us, but they won't even take the first step. And so you can't get the 1,000 miles in without that first step.
Well, I'll tell you, you're here at a hip-hop NC, hip-hop station, but your start was at Duke Radio.
Yeah.
Juxtaposed against K97.5, what was different? How did you do that?
Well, Duke was a part of the master plan of studying where I wanted to go in my life. So when I decided I wanted to be on the radio, for whatever reason it was at that time, I got a 2-year degree in radio TV. But wanting to go back and be on the radio, I needed experience. So researching what I wanted to do, not just having a dream, but taking that step, in my research, I figured out that I had to go get some experience. So then I started to look around the market to decide where could I get experience. So Duke had a radio station, of course, on campus, and I realized that if it's a campus radio station, even though it's a college radio station, all the programmers that are in college go home. So they gotta have room for community programmers to keep the station going, because radio stations wanna be on 24 hours. So through my research, that led me to Duke. I took a test, passed the test, and I started programming my show like I was on a commercial station. A lot of people get on college radio and they adapt to college radio ways, but my goal was always to get to commercial. So I then took the commercial skills and merged them with being on the college radio, and then I created my test tape.
Well, let's take that. You submitted your test tape to Radio 1. Did you think you were going to get hired?
I knew eventually I would get hired. I didn't know at that time. I mean, I brought my first tape up here and nobody listened. My second tape came is when they listened, but that came because the gentleman that was there in the position I ultimately got, he was leaving to go to Cleveland. So radio mostly hires out of necessity.
So right place, right time, and being prepared.
Being prepared, exactly.
Well, now you're on the radio. The parties are happening. The outside ventures are happening. But TV is tugging at you. Mm-hmm. Fox 50, let's talk about that, the B spot.
Right. It started as an internet idea probably 5 or 6 years ago. I've always had the idea to be on the radio and TV at the same time. I think they go hand in hand. But I couldn't convince, my radio station or the network at the same time to both agree that it was in their interest to do the project. So, through the grace of God, over a few years of just trying to research how to do it, finally the right people came in at the right time. Tommy Shank over at Fox 50, he believed in my idea. Cicero Leak, who is an agent here in the Durham area with some big clients, he believed in me. So he brought all the parties together and we brought the radio station in the mix and it just all kind of came together.
Well, I watched the B spot the other night and I saw you in LA. Mm-hmm. And you said something that was interesting to me because with everything that you've done, I had no idea you had been to LA 10 years in a row.
Wow.
To host the BET Awards from the radio station's point of view. You seem to do a lot of things and you don't talk about everything you do. What I want to talk about is your give back. Every time you turn around, if you look on the internet, if you look on the radio, if you look in the newspaper, Brian Dawson is at some event for youth, giving of his time, because those aren't paid events. That's when you're just giving your time. Why do you give so much?
Well, I think it starts with wanting to do it, because I'm a people person. So, I can get on the bus and talk to an 85-year-old lady and have an interesting conversation. So it's in me, I think being in the community helping kids is in me because I often remember when I was small and when I was young, looking up to people, trying to find something I can hold on to, trying to find somebody I can believe in. So I think it's important for us to set a positive role, for kids. And to accept that we're not perfect. But that just because you're not perfect don't mean that you can't get back. A lot of people feel like, well, since I got a lot of flaws and I'm not qualified to get back, I think we all are qualified to get back to kids. If you spend any time around kids and you see them thirst for that connection with people, that's why I think gangs flourish, because they exercise that, where they bring that brotherhood into hanging with each other. So I think where we go wrong is we're the people who make a difference. If Jesus was here, he would be in the community. He would be in the hood. He wouldn't be in your Benz. Right. He wouldn't be in your Phantom. That's not what he do. He's everywhere, but he would be helping the people that need it the most. So, if you inspire one, I remember, I say this all the time, when guest speakers used to come to my school and speak, I remember saying that, okay, if it's 300 people in there and somebody's speaking, a guest speaker lucky if 15 to 20 people paying attention. But I was always one of those 15 to 20 people. I don't care if I wanted to do that profession or not. And it was always interesting to see successful people because those are common traits that all successful people have.
We really appreciate the time that you're taking to try to let young people know that it's not going to happen overnight. Wade Banner, the youngest in charge right here at 97.5, I talked to him 2 years ago. Our first promo piece for Life's Choices was right out of this place here. And all he talked about was following in your footsteps. Mm-hmm. There was no TV show then. Chase Media was not in its infancy, but compared to what you're doing now, the blueprint was there. Tell me a little bit about Wade Banner and why you think he's going to be successful.
Oh, Wade got a lot of skills, man. It's funny when you see people in front of you, we spoke about this a little earlier, doing something and you want to follow them. Times and conditions change, so that's why it's just, people always say there's no one way for success. There's more than one. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. All those things come up because it is. You can't follow exactly what somebody else do because your path changes. You look at things even since Wade's been on the radio compared to me. When I first started, there was no Twitter. There was no Facebook, there was no social networking, So it's a lot of things that help you and they also hurt you because they can give you a false sense of accomplishment because you can text something out via Twitter that make you look like you're a Twitter CEO, but you're not, or that you're doing things that you're not. So it's good and bad with everything. But, I think the good thing about Wade is that he's up on what's going on today. I think that's important. Times are changing. He's definitely real savvy when it comes to that technological end. I think, his issue along with new up-and-coming radio programs is that they got to understand that the times are different. So I came up a whole different way. I came up through the clubs, through parties, through socials, through creating events.
So some of that sweat equity isn't there for him, and some of those disciplinary foundational things that you could learn from it aren't there. How does he get them?
Right. Well, and that's the hard part. I mean, that's the discipline and the study and wanting to really do something, you know. And I use this all the time. I mean, you remember when Diddy had that show Making the Band?
That's right.
And one episode in one of the first seasons, maybe the second season, well, he had the band go to Junior's to get him
some cheesecake, and they were flipping.
Right. And the issue wasn't whether Diddy wanted cheesecake, because we know he could buy Junior's.
Sure.
He could buy the Cheesecake Factory. He wanted to really see if they really wanted it. And they didn't really want to go. They griped and complained, and they finally made it. But if you look at it in their career, that's why they didn't make it, because they just wanted to be famous. They wanted to be stars, but they didn't want to work. You know, when you see that artist and you see the video, you're looking at the end of that dream. They had to create it in their mind. They had to write it. They had to change it around. They had to record it. They had to, you know, sing it. They had to perform it and then bring it to the video. So people get it out there to perfect exactly what's going on. It's a lot of hard work to get to where you want to get. So you got to put that in.
Brian Dawson, the Miracles of Life Film Group, wants to say thank you. And next up, Wade Banner and Brian sit down together. Look for that interview soon.